we're just doing sort of topmost thoughts about the jam.
Cool. I think that was the smoothest one we've had. It felt the least like there was like I don't know what to do. Right at the end, I was kind of free and just doing one or two things, but that was mainly because I didn't want to start something 5 minutes before the end. It's going to take 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was for me. It felt like everybody was doing something. Everybody kind of knew what they were doing, and it just kind of went much smoother than before.
Excellent, good thoughts. Crikey, man.
Sure. I thought it was cool that this was a game idea that was pretty modular in the sense that we could have multiple people working on different rooms at the same time. If we had extra time, we could add more rooms. If we didn't have the time to finish a room, we could either like just stop working on it or whatever. So I thought that was good. Yeah, I felt like it went pretty smooth. I think maybe I'd like a bit more time. Well, I came late again, so maybe I missed out on this. But I really like the idea phase.
Yeah. We had that 15-minute pre-planning that was super valuable.
Cool. Yeah, I was thinking it would have been fun to come up with different room ideas also beforehand. Because even when I asked, there wasn't really an idea of what rooms we'd have. It was just like I heard bouncy mushrooms, and that was about it.
Yeah, my bad.
But maybe other people had some ideas of the rooms. But that would be my only feedback.
For sure. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I think Luke was the one that, when we were doing the ideation, he was like, okay, but how's it going to be modular? And that ended up being such a valuable push. So thank you, Luke. Dirty damn. What kind of wisdom you got for me today? Is it just
I
me?
can't hear anything.
Yeah, I can't hear you, Dan.
Oh, I just thought he was being so quiet earlier, like to create mystery.
Wait, were you speaking when I asked you about the whiteboard and stuff, Dan? Because I never heard you say any words.
I thought it was just to be mysterious.
Me too, man.
Is it working now?
Yes, it is.
Yep. All right. So I wanted to echo Josh and Chris's statements in saying that like it was more smoother than the last one. I feel for me. Like I just was stuck on or I wasn't stuck. I was working on like my dance floor the entire time, and there was no like issues with that. No like last minute things that really had to be done. I felt it was just we all had our little tasks that we completed. I feel like maybe I could have like thought out the dance floor a bit more than I did previously, or than like I did. Like I sort of like started working on it, and then sort of like, okay, what else can I add to this? What else can I add to this? And I was like, and I feel like I probably should have tested out like some of like the actual like base features of it first, like its color tweening or whatever. Like that felt like it's a little bit like off right now, and it's like it's not actually going to the right colors because of some like, little mess up in like my tween. But yeah. All in all, I think it went pretty well though. It's a dance floor.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to jump on that train too. I think that this one felt a lot smoother than jams past. And I definitely want to hear everyone else's take on what you attribute this to. Because I have my own hypotheses, but I tend to perform like less and less specific roles as these jams go on. And more of that sort of like attempt to be the connector node, and always ask what everyone's doing so that if anyone else needs to know, then you can let them know. So I'm interested in hearing thoughts on that later. Defaultio, what you think?
I didn't actually notice one way or the other that it went smoother or less smooth than or at least equally as smooth as any other jam. I think it went well. And I do think that there was always something to do. Like it was easy to find a task because of the nature of the game, I guess. But like it felt just as good as like Climb the Hill and what was the one we did last week?
Heli Wars.
Save the Princess and
Oh,
Heli Wars.
yeah, it felt better than Heli Wars. I guess Climb the Hill was at least as good as this one.
Right on.
I don't have any other specific feedback on this jam at this point.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Josh. Luke, make it rain.
Right. This one actually beat me up. I thought I got a simple task for myself that I thought would be really cool. So okay, one thing that I'm proud about is I built the flower.
Dude.
And the flower looks pretty.
Oh yeah.
But other than that, I didn't do much. I worked on the spiral door, but I had so many bugs with something I thought was so simple. It ended up taking me nearly the full hour. So I didn't get to contribute because lots of people got building and they just built these really cool rooms. And I thought I'd have some time left over to build some extra space and just build my own like secret corridor somewhere. But I just never got around to doing that. I definitely think that the like jam was a success, and I definitely contributed to it. But like my eye opener was just like even the simplest programming task can take forever depending on the bugs, and you just can't account for bugs sometimes.
Wow. Man, well, I'm sorry that happened to you, but that is incredible insight. What do you want to elaborate at all on what specifically was the big time sink with the iris door? I mean, it's super cool door.
It was literally like syntax errors. I was trying to debug stuff. There were like 3 different syntax errors that took me like 7 minutes each to figure out, and that was like half the time.
Damn.
Yeah.
I definitely did that in a previous jam because like your mind is so like fast that you can't just like relax and be like, oh, where's the obvious mess up here?
Yeah, exactly.
Man.
Exactly.
I know what you mean.
I did that with the wind in the disaster game we made.
Yeah. I was about to say it's also the tween function for the dance floor for me. It's like I don't have the time to really fix this.
Yeah. Joe, are you there, buddy?
Yes.
You played the game, right?
Yes, I did.
Would you like to share a thought with us? And if you watched the footage, a thought from that, perhaps?
I have not seen the footage. Actually, okay, so I haven't watched the YouTube footage of you guys making the game. I played it briefly. I tried to figure it out. I couldn't figure it out at all. I couldn't figure out how to do anything. But I also didn't try particularly hard. I don't know if this anecdote is particularly useful to anybody, but I assumed that it would be much easier to know what the puzzle is and how to solve the puzzle if I had been present while you were making the game or if I had watched the footage. So I was in game and I just cracked open Studio, edited the place, and searched for the key code. And I think I found 2 codes. One of them caused an explosion and the other one opens a door. And I tried to enter the door one, but I couldn't figure out a way to open the door and also get through the door fast enough before it closed. So, so I gave up. But
Well, how long was it open for?
I programmed the door. It should stay open for 5 seconds, so maybe something else was going on.
how like?
Oh, there's a different keypad. You don't use the roof keypad.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't.
There's a keypad on the door. Maybe you use it on the
What does the
There's a
red
keypad
flag
right
for?
next to the door.
I think he's talking about a different door.
Yeah, he probably didn't know which door. or what it.
So did you go through the bookcase?
I thought that the keypad on the roof opens the bookcase. And,
I love Joe.
so
So
that's
the,
what
the bookcase is just can collide false, and you can walk through it at any point, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
But it does show that like all the stuff that we do want it to be really secret, but like I guess like the default user and even people in studio access can't figure it out.
Right.
Yeah, there's something so
we
interesting
do
about
layer
the
it super
culture of
deep.
these games, where like you learn how to do it because you join and you watch somebody else do it, and it's always like you're initiated
makes
into
it
this sort
social.
of cult of Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And poor
So
Joe had
actually-
no shaman to guide him through his initiation.
my first search for the key code in Studio, I found the piece of script that creates an explosion when you type in 1337. And that was the only thing that came up in the find results. So I was wondering to myself, like, did they actually obscure the scripts in Studio to make it?
It's that secret.
Oh gosh, that is funny.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe.
I only have 2 minutes before I have to head off, so one last thing from me. I think it would have been cool to have more builders involved in this project, just to churn out more rooms and more assets. Yeah.
True. Well, thank you, Chris. Yeah, when you showed up, I was blessed beyond belief because I had no idea what I was doing. So this gives way, I think, to a topic that I really want to cover, and I think everyone will have very valuable insight in this. Caroline especially, Luke especially. This is such a wide-ranging topic, and it's the sort of like the spectrum between logging off almost and doing something and then coming back versus always being there doing like very little things, hyper collaborative, like Google Doc editing of the same versus like doing something and then trying to, like commit it later, like have a distinct moment of integration. And I just want to open the floor up for general thoughts on this because I know it's a very broad topic and people have had different experiences on different parts of that spectrum. So I'd love to hear some thoughts.
I think both are needed to kind of get the whole product, but I think they'd need different. So as an example, if you're making something that's kind of plug and play and that's like its own separate thing, you kind of can log off and just kind of focus on that. But if your thing needs to work with other things, I think that's up to the person to ensure that other people are working on like the smaller things it needs to connect with. An example could be from the Heli Wars, the weapons thing.
David has done this twice now with the weapons loadout, and then this time with the badges, he had the same complaint. That was like, I made this badge system, but nobody else put any badges. I was like, well, David, we're all doing other stuff too, buddy.
Yeah.
So I think the collaborative thing works pretty well because I think I was working on the house, and I think Josh was also working on the house at the time, and it kind of like we were both just working. And things were just coming together really nicely. But then I think for other things, so for example, for Caroline, I could easily have posted pictures every now and then in like the green channel or whatever, if that would have helped. But I could definitely do that next time, but now that I'm aware of that, I can do that. I think maybe just if a person is off doing something else, if there's something that can help them or like will work well with their product, they should just take control and make sure that somebody else is kind of working on something that will help that.
Yeah, it would be super helpful to have the screenshots, but I would feel bad asking for people to do that because I know that you're literally just as rushed as I am. And the issue is that my computer just literally cannot handle me using Logic Pro and being in the game at the same time, which is because I attempted to try and watch it happen. But my computer just like all of the loops on Logic completely shut off and stopped loading, and it crashed a couple times. So I wonder, Jack, you mentioned having maybe some like overseer kind of. I don't know how fun that would be for that person.
I would love to do it. I've basically like been getting closer and closer to that as we go. Because like this is the person that would take the screenshots and distribute the information, whereas other people are like hyper focusing on one specific thing, there does need to be a synthesis performed at some point. And like you said, the overhead is pretty high to have someone always stop and zoom out and like take a nice screenshot and then put it in the channel. Whereas I could just be doing that all the time, or anybody else could be doing that all the time.
Yeah, that would be super cool. And like I remember with the Sandwich Princess one, like we were like 30 minutes in, and you were like, Caroline, hop on the video. We've got to tell you something. The princess is now a sandwich, and like the princess is now a sandwich. But like the first conversation we had was that we didn't even know if we were going to. I remember asking you, okay, so what's the objective of the game? Like, are we trying to rescue the princess, or are we trying to kill her? Because some people suggested that, and you said, I don't really know. And then like 20 minutes later, the princess was now a sandwich. And so thankfully, I still think the music that I created for that fit the tone, because it was just like wacky and medieval. But for this one, the sample music that David, I think it was David, sent, was like super cool. And then I was trying to come up with something along those lines. And then when I hopped back in, I wish that I had made something that wasn't as like dark, because this seems like way more like vibrant and playful than like a super intense like spy scene. Which I just need to figure out how to get the visual development at the same time. And I think that a synthesizer would be really cool and helpful for the developers, I'm sure.
Okay, I have to head off. So see you guys. But yeah, this has been great. I had a ton of fun in the last game jam.
Thank you, Chris. Much love, buddy.
Thanks, Chris.
So I want to continue down this rabbit hole of having a connector person a little bit later. I also want to talk about pre-planning, because this was new. What do you guys think? Was it valuable?
Yeah, definitely.
I think the pre-planning time was good. I think David had mentioned that the Trello, I didn't actually look at it. I think I posted what I was going to be doing, but then after that, I didn't use Trello at all.
Yeah, definitely.
I felt like the Google Doc covered what was necessary when it came to like delegating things and stuff like that, it seemed.
Yeah, it's maybe good just as an initial list of all the things that we have to do, but not really. It doesn't seem practical to actually use it for its Trello functions.
Yeah, like I found it helpful because like it gave me like it let us all know what we had to do before we were in the middle of doing it, you know, and I felt that like just having that like gave me a task that I could, you know, just stick with throughout the entire thing. And it's like I didn't look at it after we planned it out, but it's like, I mean, there wasn't really much to it. It was just like a single list of stuff that we had to do.
Yeah, I never looked at it once either. But I think that I realized... You did?
I did actually go back and look at it. Like right towards the end, I went and I was going to work on the ventilation ducts, but then there wasn't really enough time, so they'd kind of be half done, so I didn't. But I did actually go back and check and like marked off the stuff that I'd done, so it was cool for me. But yeah, it wasn't totally necessary. Like it probably wouldn't have affected anything I did if it wasn't there.
Yeah, for sure. I think the value... What do you guys think about this statement? The value comes from the act, not from the product of the Trello board thing. So in the future then, next week, do we still do a Trello board, or do we really just like have a little section at the end of the Google Doc that's like brainstorm?
That might be good, actually.
I'm definitely thinking we should do like a Google Doc style, where it's more of like a whiteboard where we can post stuff and sort stuff really quickly.
Gotcha.
And just like put our names next to it.
Because that could also be a place to easily synthesize like a separate project with stuff that needs like the weapon system and weapons. I feel like there might still need to be some form of place where you can kind of look and see, oh, okay, this needs to be made, and then work on something if you haven't got anything to do.
Very good, very good. So what would everyone want to see from a connector person? Like if you could paint me a word picture of the ideal game jam for you, how does it look, and how does this role factor in? Because there are a lot of different ways that it could roll up, but I suppose like the primary function of this person is to know as much about what's happening as possible, so that if you ever have a question or need some guidance, then you just say, hey, what's up with this? Or like, hey, I just made this, where can I put it? Because there were several moments where it was like, somebody came in and was like, hey, I have this, where do I put it? And I was like, oh, I just heard somebody talking about how, I think like Luke said, I have this door, where do I put the door? And I was like, oh, Adrian's got the keypads. And like, that was all that I said. But I don't know, Luke, was that valuable at all to have that interaction?
Yeah, I don't think, I don't remember exactly how it went, but I definitely, like, I was not expecting to hook a keypad up to it, and I think that definitely improved the whole Iris door, and I don't know, it made the keypad useful, it made the door useful.
Mm-hmm.
That was really good.
So I guess, yes, the question is, what does it look like if this person exists?
One thing that I think we could benefit from a role like this is that, one, someone has like a broad overview and can tell what's missing and can throw people on a task if something becomes harder. So like if the elevator had failed, if we never got an elevator, it'd be good to have like a backup plan, or like halfway through if the elevator wasn't working, we could ask if someone else could help out. Luckily, I think Breza made the elevator and it worked great. That was fantastic. But just like, I think we would have had some problems if there was an elevator. It would have just been like a shaft that you jump down. I mean that could have worked. But just, I guess someone to follow up on key components.
Yeah.
And then also broad overview of like if someone's looking for something to do.
Good
It
thought.
could be
think there's
that
two-
person. You take it
Sorry.
away. No, it's all you, girl.
I think there's two parts. There's the producer, which handles logistics and tells people what to do in a technical sense, like what needs to be done to finish the game. And then there's the director, the creative director, who is unifying the vision of the game and telling people how to do their jobs such that the end product is a unified vision. And the latter is the role I was most excited about when we were talking about this last week, but I think it is kind of those two roles in one.
Mm-hmm.
I think we could really benefit from like a vision director. One problem though is that like this is really casual, and at some point like I want to have, I think we get a lot of power out of like the passion that people have for any idea that comes to their mind. So, but it also makes the product way more chaotic, and it's hard to balance that.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think the role of the director isn't to like make every decision and like have like the definitive vision. Obviously everybody creatively contributes, but it's more to like when there is an ambiguity or a question, it's just like somebody needs to be the decision maker, I guess.
Yeah.
It could also be that that person, whoever fills that role, is the person that does actually like fill out and complete the Trello board, so that way they can at least just keep track of all the tasks, and then say like if somebody finished some sort of development or something, they just shout it out on the Discord call, and then that person can go and check, and then if say somebody else has a few minutes left, that way you can just ask that person, they can tell you exactly what tasks could be done and like how much time they would take, something like that. So that person isn't necessarily even making decisions, but they're just overseeing the scope of work to be done and like what holes could be filled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I was thinking on a like a long scale game jam, like RDC game jam, after every hour or two or three, the team generally kind of finds its way together and discusses what's been made and what direction needs to be taken. And that's kind of something which we don't really have the time for in an hour. So somebody who less so says, no, you can't do that, we don't have time, but more so says, okay, this person's working on that, this one's working on this, And if someone comes to them and says, "Hey, I just finished this," and they say, "Cool, can you do this thing," which will like link them together, or something like that. Just that people don't have to like meet together. They can just meet with the one person who's the center spoke, and then that person can kind of
Kind of like a
I guess
mediator.
yeah.
Yeah, and it also just solves the problem of people not knowing what to do, which we've had to some extent in every jam. If there's just one person with a list of the things that needs to be done that you can go to.
Because, for example, Davidia made the badge system, and then if he said to the mediator or whatever you want to call them, "Hey, I just finished the badge system," and then like 5-10 minutes before the end, when I didn't want to start a big new thing because there wouldn't be enough time, I could have told the person, "Hey, is there any small thing I can do?" And they could have said to me, "Well, you can make some badges," and that's cool. I could have made like 2 badges in that time. But yesterday, like I didn't really know to talk to Davidia to see, oh, hey, I can make badges. So
in this scenario, let me play this out for you, and you tell me if this is not ideal. You finish your big task, and there's 7 minutes left, and you go, "Oh, what's up, integrator or middle spoke? What do I do now?" And this person says, "Well, David has this badge system. I don't know how it works, but I know that he just finished it." And then you say, "Okay, cool," and then you just go straight to David. Is that suboptimal?
that would work for me.
Because I guess my question was like, should this person know how the badge system works and then be able to explain it? But that seems like too much communication overhead to actually make that happen.
I feel like
yeah, you go, John.
I feel like it should be like some responsibility should be on the person who made like this integrated system to go out and like
Evangelize.
not only go to the mediator but also like say like, "Hey guys, I made this system that could use some content," you know.
Yeah, I totally agree. The interesting thing is that like David has done that twice, and he tried to evangelize, and it just never happened. Like he came in, I was watching back the Heli Wars footage, and he came in and he said, "All right, everybody, like I'm going to explain how this works, and it's going to take me a while, so like please listen." And then he spent like 45 seconds. Nobody else spoke, and he'd explained the whole thing, but I don't think anyone listened. Like I think everyone was just busy doing their own thing, and the same thing happened with the badges. And so I think. I wonder, how do we solve this?
Perhaps like we could incorporate that like into our planning time. Like say, okay, I am going to be making an integrated system. Now before like I finish it, I want you all to know that this will probably be done, and I want content for it. So keep that in mind when you are making your tasks, right?
Okay, concept. And since I'm not a developer, you can be like, "Caroline, that's just so stupid and awful," but I'm going to say it anyway. What would we think about like an intermission where maybe it was literally just like a 5-minute break in between the hour or something like that, where it would give people time to catch other people up and explain stuff like that? Or is that just to where everyone actually has to like focus in that moment and listen to those updates that would be necessary? Or would that just completely disrupt your workflow?
I'd be down for it, because it allows people like catch their breath and actually think about things that they aren't racing through their head in the moment. But there's one thing that I also wanted to think about real quick is I think nobody had, for the Heli Wars, nobody had initiative to make tools, or the people who were making tools might have listened to how to integrate it, but it was probably like 1 or 2 people. And I think that was the real crux of that problem, was just like the people who people who heard David talking. I mean, at least for me, this is how I felt when he was explain the system. I'm like, "Oh, this doesn't pertain to me, because I'm not making a tool right now."
Me too. You completely boop.
Yeah, so I just stopped listening and continued doing what I was doing.
Yeah, me too.
That's just
sorry,
David. Yeah, so I think you need to capture some initiative before explaining it to everybody, because nobody wanted, like we had 15 people, and if everybody stopped and listened for 2 minutes, like that's like 30 collective minutes, I guess, lost. So a lot of people were just like in their own head, like maybe what I'm doing it doesn't. I think it's more about capturing initiative. But sorry, back to the break idea. I like that idea. I'm open to it. I think it could. I would love to try it just to see what happens.
Yeah. A little halfway all hands.
Yeah.
2 quick things I thought about the idea. I think it would be cool. One thing is it may, like as a scripter, if I'm working on something and I'm like 10 minutes in and there's some syntax issue I'm trying to sort out, I may not want to break for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing was, I think Davidia only thought of the badge thing in the last like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't have been caught by a halfway meeting or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
It's intriguing. I like the idea of a little all hands, halftime scrum, but I wonder of the marginal value of that versus having a central observer that can serve the purpose of basically this, but all the time. It's it's less exciting because you don't get everybody in at once to be like brrr, bang, but it like that. I relate to Josh so much, and that if you're a programmer. And Luke, maybe you could speak to this, that you have a task and you're like, all right, I'm going to do this. And it might take you 45 minutes. And so your halftime update is just I'm ready to be done with halftime.
True.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if it's not something that would be helpful and it sounds like it would be less helpful than more helpful. It sounds like do more harm than good. So just
No, I love the sound of it. And I think that it does solve a lot of problems. I think that maybe we try the central observer role first without the halftime, and then next week we come back and say, okay, should we have a halftime?
I also think that there are just some problems that that we probably can't smooth over or really solve within the confines of a 1 hour time limit. I just think that is how it is for some things.
We're pushing the limits for sure.
Yeah.
I think potentially the producer role could make this super scalable with a lot of people.
I agree, man. It's starting to get me excited.
So what about this flow? David finishes a badge system or something, or whoever finishes some system, and says it to the director spokesperson, and then this spokesperson then is kind of directing it and actually contacts people who would possibly be interested, or announces it to people in a way that is clear. We have badge system. If you're making a room, here's how you can set up an achievement really quickly and easily, or contact me and we'll make a badge or whatever.
Yeah, it's their job to know everything that's going on and disseminate relevant information to people whose task would be relevant. If it would be useful for someone to know something that somebody else is doing, then they have the responsibility of informing them.
This is the dream.
And I think the amount of information can vary. So, for example, with the iris door and the keypad, that was a situation of go talk to Adrian for all the information. But for a badge, the information could be you need a badge ID and the giver is here, in server storage, and just clone it and make a new badge ID.
Mm-hmm.
So that extra step of going to talk to David may not be needed, or in this specific example. But yeah, I guess it's up to the spokesperson to see, okay, does this person need to be sent off to this other person, or is it just such a small little thing that I can just tell them how to do it?
Yeah, whatever is more efficient for the case.
I would love to do this. I'm obsessed with this so much.
I'd be totally down to do it next week. To have someone do it next week.
Does anybody else want to fill this role?
I would be interested in trying it as well.
Excellent.
I'd be interested in future, maybe, yeah. But I'm also really happy with just programming stuff. So
yeah.
So, what is the logistical flow? What are the voice channels? Who's in and out of where in order to get this done? Is there some I'm just gonna riff on this and tell me if it's a terrible idea. There's a core voice channel, and the integrator is always there. And if you need to tell something to them, then you join and tell them something. And if you need to ask them something, then you join and ask them something. And if you wish to leave, I imagine the majority of the people will also be here, but you are encouraged to break out into a separate channel or just leave the channel altogether if you're not interested in engaging in conversation.
How does the integrator contact everyone?
That's a good question.
I think it can still potentially work in mostly one channel, and then you break out if you really only need to have an in-depth conversation about something not relevant to everyone else.
I would
Yeah.
imagine
There's
that
a lot of the communication that has already that we've done previously would be replaced with, well, I don't know, would be replaced with communication between the director and the people. Like, I don't think it hurts for other people to overhear communication that isn't immediately relevant to them because they phase it out.
That's true.
Naturally.
My main worry was that there would be other communication, there'd be non-essential communication happening, and that the integrator would be unable to perform their job because of like background noise, I guess.
Maybe that's an opportunity for the integrator to step in and be like, you guys are having a great discussion, but it's kind of like, making it hard to discuss other stuff. They kind of ask them to get a room.
I was watching the Climb the Hill footage. I totally forgot about this, but there was a point where Luke and Anne were both at the top of the hill, and Luke said, "We should kiss behind the admin."
I still think about that.
And I said, "Gross." It was epic. Thank you, Luke.
I think I don't think that I mean, I have the feeling that won't be a problem because people will know that the spoke has authority and they will listen if it's prearranged that this person should be listened to.
I think it's easier if the spokesperson pulls the person they specifically want to talk to out to a separate room and then back in, rather than discouraging chatter in the main channel. And possibly also having just a separate text channel just to pop in like, I'm working on this, I've done this, etc. Then the spokesperson can follow up on that if they need to, or just so they have an ear on things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like, Jack, if you're the middleman and you need to make some sort of independent communication with somebody, you could just be like, hey, step into my office, and then you and that person break out into a separate channel and then pop back in or something like that.
And that did happen. That did happen, actually, today or yesterday with Chris, because Chris joined late, and he popped in and was like, hey, what's up? And I was like, oh, Chris, meet me in the breakout. And then we went to A, and I filled him in on everything. And then
That was cool, actually.
It was, now that I think about it, like that was like exactly how this type of thing should go, because then like we went into the breakout and I was like, hey, here's everything that we talked about. And then we went back into the general and I was like, okay, now I need you to be my boss. Like you are the Clubhouse king now. Like tell me what to build, because I don't know what I'm doing. Like when the what was the word that you just used? Agent? When the agent is the free agent, I guess, like when this person is a free agent, like you can build a TV or you can build a couch like I was doing, because there is no communication that needs to be done, and it doesn't take away from your ability to perform that connector function. So it is like, this is exactly how I have envisioned this role. I guess like my role in any team that is developing games has been this, I guess. That like I will give you any information that you need, and also I will do whatever you need if the time is available.
Yeah.
It's thrilling. It's thrilling. And this does seem like there is perhaps more opportunity for distinct functions of people that are being performed. Like there was talk earlier of, like there's a bunch of people, there's a 10-person team this weekend. Is it valuable for people to say, I'm going to perform this function and I'm going to perform this function? So that way the connector can, if David comes and says, hey, I got a badge system, then the connector can look at the people who have said, like, I'm going to be a programmer. But I guess this problem arises if you don't know everybody. Like, I'm grateful to already know all of you and what you do primarily. And so I don't need a cheat sheet to be like, hey, who's the programmer? But I guess if we do alternate roles, because I see like a lot of people would want to try this, right? Like, would anybody not want to try this?
I think the fact that if it's being used to unify a vision or make concrete decisions, that sounds kind of fun to me.
Yeah.
Maybe the managerial process might not be as fun, but I don't know, depending on the person.
So, Josh, I think that's like you articulated that very well, because there are two distinct functions that are being performed. Like you said, Luke, like there is managerial stuff that I would love to do, and then there's also creative direction, which is like, what are we doing? Like, what is this game, and how do we take the 4 different rooms and make a game out of them, I guess. And I care less about that. And so it like in a traditional team setting, like these are 2 different people, but in 1 hour, like it seems like there'd be so much communication required between these 2 people. I don't know, like do you think that there is room for creative direction at all in 1 hour? Because I feel like when I think of creative direction, I think of like stop and start and sort of like try and then evaluate and then try something else.
There's definitely not room for like someone to have a like super well-defined vision and be like, guys, this is what we have to make, because it like in an hour it's always going to be something that is different than what any individual expected it to be. But maybe there is room for someone to like be a final say on disagreements and like just be a final say on decisions as needed.
Has that happened so far? Like, has there been a disagreement that needed a final arbiter?
Maybe not, but maybe if this role exists, then if somebody has a question, if they're not sure a direction to take something, then they will have someone to go to ask.
If you build a
cases where I think it could be useful are like when we're all not sure what we want to do, just having someone make a decision so that we can move forward. Because sometimes we'll juggle around ideas and we don't want to like, no one knows who to like actually say yes in what we're doing. And I think we resolved it pretty well this time. We discussed about it, we got a good amount of ideas, and we all kind of just like roughly were like, yeah, let's kind of just do this. But it might help, or might save 5 or 10 minutes if we had someone to like, let's explore this more, and then let's do this, or let's actually do it that way. I think that way would be gooder. Because we were talking about like the atrium or something, like some room with like hallway and a bunch of doors, and like if we just like concreted, like chosen that, it could save us like 3 minutes. Maybe not that much, but it might add up for some projects.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you're in the ideation stage, there does need to be arbitration at some point. But when you're in the production stage, like no one is talking to each other, so you just kind of go. And so there isn't much need for that. But I did not consider the need for a brainstorming arbiter. This is excellent, man. Oh, this is like super exciting. Wow. I feel like this will radicalize the game slam. So it sounds like everyone is on board with this existing, at least for an experiment next weekend. Is anyone opposed to me filling this role next weekend?
Can I be opposed to you not filling the role next week?
And it certainly doesn't have to be a recurring pattern. I would rather do this than anything else. And I'd be
good for you to set the precedent and blaze the trail.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. And I will be more than excited to pass the torch the following weekend and serve one of my comrades. So, excellent. I think we can maybe close this chapter. There's something that I want to open up that happened that was fascinating to me, which was Chris basically started giving me a master class on building while we were in the jam. And if you watch the uploaded footage, you'll see where this happens, where let me just say, I am a jackass at building. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I've never even attempted to learn how to do it effectively. And so you can watch me in there, like, make a big part and then duplicate the part and then, like, try and make it a wall. And my grid is all off and there's, like, 0.2 and then, like, 0.1 studs. And I stuck it on top of the map. And Chris came in. He was like, okay, well, first let's move this out of the normal map to not bother them. And I was like, it's genius. I never would have thought of that. And then it was like, you need to thicken your walls and hide the roof so that you can see what you're doing. And then you need to lower the walls so that you can see what you're doing. And he's like giving me all these little tips and tricks that as a person who's never really built before, it was crazy. Like it was so valuable. And I'm interested in hearing there are so many ways that we can expand on that principle of like Game Jam is an amazing moment for apprenticeships. What do you guys think? It's ridiculously open-ended, but I experienced in that moment how valuable it was to me. It's like rapid pair programming, it's like any sort of master apprentice exercise. What do you guys think about that?
I would love to have that with like someone doing Blender. That'd be cool. I mean, I guess it very much depends on what each individual wants to get better at, and what the skill sets of everyone else in the group are.
Do you think that, because I can see it being like a structured event. So like, hey, next weekend, we're all going to do mentor-mentee pairs and have like master classes for the hour. Or I can see it being just self-organized where anybody can pop up and be like, hey, I'd love to teach somebody building this weekend if you want. And, somebody else can come in and be like, me, please. Or vice versa, like, hey, I'd love to learn building this weekend. And then Jenny can come in and say, you're my student, you're my pupil.
I think it works better when it happens organically than maybe like a structured thing. Like it sounds like for you and Crikey, it just like you were struggling, and then Crikey's like, "Hey, I can help you out here."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
I'm scared to... Go ahead.
Yeah, go on, Luke.
Okay. Basically, I'm just scared about like trying to, structurally integrate this into a jam, because I think people who might be doing this, I mean, it seems like it worked out really well for you, but if I can just imagine me trying to teach someone, it would take a very long time. Or if I'm learning something, like it takes me a really long time to learn things.
True.
And so I, like in an hour, I feel like I couldn't learn anything or teach anything properly. So I would not probably participate in it.
Good thoughts.
I think for building, it's cool because there's little things, little tips and tricks and hints and like shortcuts which you can learn. But I think for programming, especially in an hour, it's going to be very hard to try and get someone to program better and still finish their task within the hour. One of the RDC game jams, Quenty forgot his laptop charger, so we were pair programming on my laptop, and that was really cool. I learned a lot, but that was over the space of like 3 or 4 hours where we were both kind of working towards the same goal. But I'm thinking even if I was programming here and sharing my screen and somebody would like pass a comment like, oh, you could try this or try that, like I don't think I'd be able to take advantage of it in the moment, because at that point my goal would be to like kind of finish in the hour rather than to try a new method which I'd probably need to look something up for, etc.
That's true. Like there's no way I would have made the atrium if we continued doing that for the whole hour. There was just like a 5-minute stint where he was like, A, B, C, and D are very helpful things to do. And I was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, there's 100%, even though like there's an interesting separation between building and scripting in this respect. But I wonder like obviously I never would have built the atrium in an hour, but I still learned so much from that 5-minute stint. And I'm interested in how that would map over to programming. Like maybe the person that's learning is not actually doing the programming, but rather it's like a one-on-one live stream with an intimate Q&A. And so like, Josh, if I'm learning from you programming, then you share your screen with me and we're in a separate little voice channel and you sort of talk about everything that you're doing, and then I can ask questions like, hey, why did you do this? Like, I probably would have done it this way. Can you explain to me why you use this structure? Or like, what keyboard shortcut did you just use to do that? Like these little building shortcuts are so rich, and I think the same thing applies to your navigating in the script editor. So it's just general thoughts.
That does sound pretty cool. It would even be cool, I don't know if it would ideally be possible with Discord, but it would be cool if you could get some newer developers in and they could like each of the good programs could share their screen, and then newer devs could watch and like ask questions as they went. That would be cool. But, yeah.
I guess then the question is like, how is that any different from just live streaming? And I think the value proposition there would be the intimacy of being able to like specifically pair up with a mentor and a mentee and then ask questions as they're doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's only 1 hour. Anyway, big picture thoughts there. So besides having this new connector person, well, I guess also, what should we call this? There's been so many different words. There's been spokesperson, hub
I like
person.
spokesperson.
What about the middleman?
Middleman. Because there's a lot going on with this person. It is pseudo producer, pseudo director.
The unifier.
Unifier, the great uniter. Czar.
Yes.
You should be able to pick your title when you assume it.
That is a awesome idea.
I like it.
I'm in.
The overseer.
Is anyone opposed? Perfect. So I will select a title for this weekend. And then next weekend, whoever is passed to. That's genius. Oh, okay. I'll brainstorm on this. I have cleared prompt voting. If you have not checked that out, you can go ahead and submit some prompts already if you're particularly inspired. Or, as usual, wait until the last minute and then submit prompts and see what ruckus occurs there. We're about out of time here, but quickly, I guess, are there any learnings from the game itself? This has been mostly a process-focused talk, which is amazing. But can we mine any diamonds from the game? I think one of them was the badge system. Was super engaging and people loved it. And that was like a very simple addition. But just adding any sort of gameplay element is super valuable.
Yep, badges helped so much because it gave direction. I also think the retro style helped everybody go ahead really fast.
True.
On just building. Like it's just really easy.
True.
Yeah, I'd echo the
retro
badges helped a
style
lot.
helped like make it easier to go fast, and also gave a specific art direction that everyone knows to follow.
Mm-hmm. What you got, LG Lacey?
Oh no, I was just going to echo that the badges that worked really well.
Mm-hmm. So that's the second time that David has kind of come out of nowhere, like right at the end, with gameplay that has been super engaging. Like when we did Rescue the Princess.
Yeah, maybe we should nail that down in the 15 minutes. Is like what is the end product for like a user to like, what are they going to do? What kind of gameplay, and how can we help that?
That's awesome. Yes. I will put. Should we add that as a field on the atlas, perhaps? What is gameplay? Because right now it's like aesthetic, free models, and then whiteboard, brainstorm. But gameplay is an important question that we have literally never asked.
Gameplay just sort of like materialized in the last like 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
We just wanted to make a cool clubhouse. We didn't really think about gameplay.
That is hilarious. This is why we have retros, guys. This is amazing. But that's a great question. It's like building something is. I'm just trying to like consider how we approach this, which is normally like we start with the prompt, and we considered initially that the prompts would have embedded gameplay just by their nature. Like climb to the top of the hill, that's gameplay, I guess, that's embedded. Secret clubhouse, I guess my instinct would be to think that like, oh, just getting to the clubhouse is the gameplay. But that is extremely short-sighted, I think.
Yeah.
I think all the Hams games had gameplay, but not much motivation. I think Heli Wars was the only one that had kind of some motivation, which was just inherent.
Mm-hmm. I think that we've been mining old Roblox for diamonds. I think that that's perfect for this 1 hour thing, because all of those games take something very, very specific, and just that's it. Like they just do their job very well. You know, they don't have a gigantic code base and universe within which you play, and they don't need to. They stand alone as very fun, isolated experiences. And I think that's a good pattern to continue on. Guys, it's been an hour. Thank you all so much for your insight, your energy. Any closing thoughts before we wrap it up?
Hype for next week for the spokesperson. Or
Yes.
what is your task going to be, Jackson?
I don't know, man. I would have to think about it. Send me ideas. I'd love to catch some ideas in the channels.
Captain Jackson.
That's funny, man. Okay, well, guys, once again, thank you so much. nothing but love for all of you. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I definitely want to see you all again on Saturday.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you, everybody. Peace
Thanks,
and love,
guys.
guys.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.